And yes, we are back. A very big welcome back to the channel and an even bigger welcome to the 2023 nesting season. And we are starting back on the 13th of March in this video. And by the time I got turning on the camera, there seemed to be a fair bit of interest in the nest already. Now, I know what yous are all wondering. Have we seen Biddy and Miley, our resident Bluetits that have been with us the past 3 years? And if you haven't seen their antics over the last 3 years, I made a summary video. I'll link it in the description. And if that isn't your style, you can still go day by day through the Nestbox series. Just go to the playlists on my channel. So back to the burning question. Have we seen them? Well, sadly, no, I don't think we have. Now, I will return to this later on in the season, as I'm getting through a backlog of footage at the moment. But I don't think we have Biddy with us this season, unfortunately. Yous have to remember that Bluetits in the wild only live 3, 4, 5 years, and we know for certain that Biddy is a 3-year-old bird. So, she may have moved on to another nesting site. She could have been caught by a sparrowhawk, or she may have just left by old age. So really it's anyone's guess. But that means there is a vacant nest box this year, and it's not just the Bluetits that are interested in it. We had a lot of interest from this great tit, a magnificent bird in its own right, and I would actually love to see one nesting in a side view nest box of my own at some stage or another. They're a bigger bird, but from the same family. You can see the size difference. It's a formidable bird when compared to a Bluetit, but as I said, a magnificent bird in its own right. They have very similar nesting habits than the Bluetits, and they do nesting shuffles and everything the same. So just a few minutes after the Grey Tit's visit, we have our new resident female bring in some nesting material. It is really only 7 minutes, I believe it was 7 minutes later. I wonder, did the cross paths outside, or did the Grey Tit leave? Was this a response? Is this Bluetit trying to claim this nest box over the Grey Tit? It'll be interesting to see how this plays out in the coming days. As I said, I have seen bits and bobs of this footage, but I'm really only getting through the backlog of what happened back in March. As we know from the live stream that we do have a Bluetit nesting on the 9th of May at the moment, so we're going to have to decipher everything that has happened. We can see the Grey Tit came back just a little while later, again inspecting the box, inspecting the nesting hole, and doing all the thorough inspections you would expect to see this time of year from prospecting birds. And this Grey Tit certainly seems interested. They don't put a lot of time into nest boxes that they're not interested in, and you can see just a few minutes later that the Bluetit is back. So I would wonder what's going on outside the nest box in between these moments, but I guess we will never know. I would imagine a lot of alarm calling, a lot of posturing if I was to guess, and usually Grey Tits win out in those situations unless you have a bird like Biddy, like last year, would take on any bird that would dare go near her nest box. So maybe this Bluetit is just as feisty. You can see that she has a much smoother complexion than Biddy did from previous years, and seems to be quite a well put together bird. And it was quite early this year for some nesting material to be brought in. You can see she actually accidentally took a good lump of it out there, and we're left with a very small bit. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. A nice little nest swap there. And interesting thing about this, I don't believe this is the same pair of birds that brought in the nesting material earlier. Their markings of their feathers and everything is just very slightly different. Now, I'm not 100%, but yous can take my word for that, or yous can take it or leave it. But I don't believe, I I think there's 2 pairs of blue tits interested and 1 pair of grey tits. So it's all to play for. But one thing we do like to see on this channel is loads and loads of nesting shuffles. I can just never get enough of them. And if you're new to the channel, the nesting shuffle is what we saw that bird doing there. It's testing the area to see is it suitable for a nest cup, and it will continue to do that while bringing in material to further and further compact the material until it's a perfectly blue tit shaped nest cup, and then they will line with feathers. So that's all to come in the coming videos, so it'll be interesting to see how all that plays out. So if you remember, on one of the pairs of blue tits, you had quite a straight line down the chest of the bird, where if we look at this bird, you'll get a chance now in a moment, you will see that black line is actually slightly crooked. It kind of changes direction halfway down the breast, and the bird will give us a look now in a minute. It's going to hop back down into the nest cup there. Do a little nest and shuffle first, of course. And eventually you can see there that it kind of bends down the breast of the bird, where one of the other females has a very straight line going down her breast. So that's possibly 2 birds. Now this isn't a surefire way. Feathers do move, so we're going to have to take this with a pinch of salt. But as I said, I think there's a few prospecting birds in this nest box at the moment. So we just had 1 pair. And now look at this female, slightly bigger in my opinion, but if we get a look at her breast there, that bent line down her breast isn't there. Fine example of some nesting shuffles though, I must say. Also never ceases to amaze me just how thorough they are in their checks. They leave no stone unturned. Something that I've seen a lot this nesting season so far is pecking at the walls. I'm not too sure what this behaviour is for. You can even see the little chips of wood on the ground, and you'll see this over the coming videos that all the birds tend to be doing this on that wall and the back wall. So I wonder why that is. Anyone's guess is out there. If anyone has any ideas, throw it into the comments, because I'm at a loss. One of my ideas would be that maybe it's to test the endurance of the wall, make sure this wood isn't rotten, and make sure that if they can't peck out, well then something can't peck in unless it was a woodpecker or something like that. Maybe it comes from a nesting behaviour from natural nest sites. Natural nest sites are going to have a lot more rotten wood. Maybe the chips of wood would make a better bedding. Maybe it's something coming from that doesn't really, a behaviour that doesn't really translate itself to a nest box. So these are all just ideas that were floating around my head. Let me know what you think. So at this point, it's actually been quite a number of days since new nesting material was brought in, but we can see that new nesting material got brought in on the 18th by the bird that has a slight bent linear line going down her breast. What you can also see is the sheer amount of wood chips on the ground from all the pecking at the walls. So again, I'd love to know exactly what's going on. But nesting material kept getting brought in these days, which is really nice to see. It's still early in my opinion, back on the 18th of March, but nonetheless the birds have got it into their heads that it's time to build nests. And let me tell you that they probably know a whole lot more than us in that respect. And a little bit more pecking was done on the 18th. I've sped this up because they seem to get a little bit obsessed once they start going at it. They really get fixated on pecking at the walls. And that brings us to the end of this video. In this video we've covered from the 13th of March to the 18th of March. Not before we got one more visit, however, from the grey tit. I don't believe it entered the nest box on this occasion, but it landed on the hole quite several times, looking in, doing thorough inspections, and a few good quality pecks at the hole as well. So how's it all going to play out? Well, I'm going to rummage through this footage and I will give you the summary of what went down in the coming days. I want to thank you for your patience. I know I started late this year, but I thought best to finish my exams, get them out of the way before starting these videos essentially, and trying to balance both, and maybe my exam suffering and also the videos suffering. So now I have time to do them, and I will do them to the best of my ability. So again, thank you for your patience, and we'll see you in the next one. Good to be back. Bye bye.